Hi, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're going to take a look at a very small little ITX enclosure. This is from Sunny Side Up Designs, otherwise known as SSUPD, which is actually a sub-brand of Lian Li, for those of you out there that didn't realise that. This is a 15 litre case, comes powder coated with nice steel frame. There's actually 3 versions of this available in terms of colour options. So you've got a black version, a white version, and this one which they call Fossil Grey. Now, the reason why I chose this is actually a little bit of a weird one, but I recently got this Keychron K3 Max keyboard. There's a separate review of this, so you can check it out for yourselves. But I think this is going to tie in very, very nice for a nice little desktop setup. So that was my reasoning behind going for this particular colour. They are all the same price. So currently at the moment from the SSUPD or SSUPD or Sunny Side Up Designs website, you can get this for around about $79.99 here in the United Kingdom. Now, for those of you that are thinking, well, that's great, that's ITX, but I'd like something a little bit bigger, don't worry, they have got you covered, at least partially. You can get a micro-ATX add-on for this, which actually increases the size of the case. So you can get that. There's around about £30 in total. So then you're looking at somewhere in the region of about £110, £120 with your postage and all that kind of stuff to get the micro-ATX version. But today we're going to take a look at the ITX version. So this will be almost entirely down to that. I will probably mention the micro ATX options, but we are focusing on ITX for this particular video. So let's take a look at the case and see what it's all about. So to begin with, in terms of the actual weight of this, 3.4 kilos as it comes from the factory, completely empty, but still feels very solid and very structural. There is also a 2-year guarantee with this one, or 2-year warranty. The height, you're looking at 247 millimeters, depth of 167 millimeters, and a length of 363 millimeters. So immediately, for those of you that are considering what graphics cards you could put in this, this will support GPUs up to 3.4 slots, so 3.5 slots effectively, and GPUs up to 325mm in length and 136 millimeters in width. Some of the things you might want to consider in terms of graphics card, especially if your graphics card uses one of those new 12-volt high power connections, those do add on a little bit of bulk on the side. So potentially you might want to actually invest in a right angle connector to go along with those graphics cards, unless your graphics card is quite narrow, but again, up to 136 millimeters in width, taking into account a little bit of room for your cables. Because of its small size, CPU coolers, if you're looking at going down the air cooling route, you're looking at 142 millimeters in height, which is somewhat restrictive, but there are certainly coolers on the market which will fit in with that. We've actually reviewed some small form factor coolers in the past, so possibly try and link those in the video description for you. If air cooling isn't necessarily your bag and you want something a little bit more upmarket, then you can actually fit radiators in here, so AIOs, in this side section. 240 or 280mm rads, those will go in there pretty easily. There is mounting section on the bottom for radiators as well, although I think realistically that's probably not the best of ideas, having a radiator at the very bottom of your loop, but potentially you can do, and again the same applies, 240 or 280mm rads on the bottom, although they will need to be quite slim depending on the graphics card you install. Going back to air cooling, so there are actually quite a few options of this, even though it is very small. Down to its modular design, there's lots of brackets and places where you can place fans. So at the front section here, you have the potential for a 120 or 140mm fan. On the side here with the brackets, which you'll probably see for some B-roll and we'll take a look at later, you can put in there 2 120s or 2 140s. Again, radiators potentially as well. And at the back of the case, there's a very small cutout there, so you can put in there either an 80mm or a 92mm fan. Sometimes 92mm fans are also called 90mm. Realistically, either one is going to fit. I've actually tried a Noctua fan in there, as you'll see from the B-roll, and it fits very easily. Power supplies are another consideration, so you can use ATX power supplies in here, or SFX or SFXL. Ultimately, it's going to be down to the individual and also the kind of funds you've got to do this build. When you've got ATX power supply in there, it is a little bit more limiting in terms of space and in terms of storage. So if you're looking at putting 2.5-inch drives in here or 3.5-inch drives, the mechanical types, or possibly SSDs, then with a SFX power supply, you can get up to 6 drives in here. Or if you're using 3.5-inch drives, you're limited to 3 drives in SFX mode or 2 drives if you're using ATX power supply. So there we go, many facts and figures. Of course, as with everything, if you want even more detailed information, I strongly suggest you head over to the website for the case. I'll put some links for that in the video description also. Having said that, there will also be links in the video description for places such as Amazon and various other retailers, so you can pick up one of these if you want to. Those links potentially may be affiliated, so we may earn a very small commission on any purchases made. It doesn't affect the price that you pay in any way, shape or form, but it does help support the channel. Right, so let's finally take a look at this case and see what it's all about. So as you can see, and probably you've seen from lots of B-roll already, the whole thing is essentially porous. So there are tiny holes, perforations, all the way around the entire enclosure. That goes for the top, both the sides, the front, the back, and also the bottom as well. So it's like a giant tea bag. So lots of airflow. Again, potentially depending on what you would put in here, that may be absolutely sufficient. With the aid of water cooling in there, you can put some heavier duty components in there, but I think this should breathe quite nicely and certainly is a little bit more open than you'd find with tempered glass cases. So we'll start off with the front. So as you can see, we've got the mesh, and also you have got some USB ports on the bottom there. So two USB 3.0s and also a USB Type-C connection as well, if you want to use those. If you go for the micro-ATX add-on, this bit gets changed and you get more ports on the bottom. Again, I'll put some links for that in the video description so you can check that in more detail. Or potentially, if there's enough of you out there which actually ask for it, we'll maybe buy the micro-ATX add-on and give that a separate review. Next, we'll move around to the sides. So the sides are going to be exactly the same, both sides, so they are interchangeable. So if for some reason you'll get a little bit cack-handed and you damage one of these, you can always change them over, it's not a problem. Although they are powder coated, so they should take some bangs and knocks. There's a little bit of flex to the panels, but I think that is kind of nature of the beast when it goes for these perforated type designs. It is entirely toolless, so you don't need any tools to actually take it apart. And actually, if you do want to take it apart, it is pretty simple. It just pulls apart. We'll start with the top panel. Again, this is perforated, so grab from the back, and it's all secured on these metal kind of pogo pin type style design, which go into a plastic receiver or rubber receiver. So nice and easy to take off, and again, it's got a nice mesh to it. It gives it just enough strength, but also enough porosity to allow air to flow. So with the top panel off, you can see inside here, so there are mountings on the top here. I didn't really cover this as we talked about fans, etc. earlier and radiators, because there is mountings in the top here. So potentially you could put some fans in the top, possibly like a 280 radiator, but it is going to be extremely dependent on what motherboard you put in here. Because of its being ITX in nature, the motherboard comes right up to the very top, so you may have some difficulties there. But if you want to offset some 120s on this side and just connect them via the screws on this side, you might have a little bit more luck, especially in this top section. This part here is where your power supply goes, and of course with that there's an absolutely ton of different options for your power supply. So this has got a standard ATX opening, but you can also put in a SFX power supply without using any adapters, using the screw holes which are all situated around, and just to the side there you've got all the holes and perforations there to attach various different types of 3.5 or 2.5 inch drives. They've quite conveniently as well put some rectangular cutouts at both ends there, so you can pass their SATA and data cables through if you decide to mount one of your drives on this top section, which you can as well. Next, let's take a look at the side panel. So again, just grab it from the side, although sometimes it's easier to push out from the inside. That is something which I'd like to have seen done a little bit better. There is a very small indentation just around here to actually get your finger in to pull the panel off. It's not really that deep, but because of this being a structural part, they don't want to make it too deep because otherwise obviously it's going to weaken it. So with that removed, again, you can see we have got the same design, so the same porosity, and also those push pins, of which there are 6 to keep this held in place. And now you can see inside and get an idea of what the case is actually like. So we've got these 2 brackets here, which are adjustable and also removable. So if you decided you don't want to put fans on the side, you want to have a nice clear view inside of the PC case, then you can remove those in their entirety. They aren't structural, so you can do that. And with these in place, you can mount a radiator in here up to 280 mils, or 2 times 140 mil fans, or a 240 mil radiator, 2 120s. That choice is going to be down to you. And of course, depending on what else you put in here power supply wise, that is going to take up some of the room, so obviously do bear that in mind. As I said, this is adjustable, so there are screws on the side, so you can adjust the height of this particular bracket. So if you want to squeeze it up a little bit more, you can do. I've actually put it in the lowest possible position, just to give you an idea of the size of fans that you can actually get in here before you start intruding on your graphics card space. This is probably a good time as well to look at the bottom of the case, so we can get an idea of the air filtration. So the bottom section is just a flexible metal filter, which has a magnetic edge all around it, and these slots here go in underneath the feet to hold it all nicely in place. I was expecting from some of the reviews I've seen of this previously that this thing was going to be an absolute nightmare, and every time I grabbed the case it was going to fall off or come loose. But in actual fact it hasn't at all, and it's been very good. If you want to not use that to get even more airflow inside of your case, if you're hoping for some natural convection, you could leave that off. And in terms of actually pulling dust into the case, normally with dust there is a slight weight to it, which normally gravity overpowers the thermal dynamics, so dust is going to fall down. It may get pulled in underneath very slightly, and if the fans aren't at full whack, it's unlikely that those fans are then going to suck that dust back up through the fans and into your PC case. It's extremely unlikely that's going to happen, so don't worry about leaving the dust filter off if you want to get more airflow. That is going to be absolutely fine. The only thing you may find if you do remove the filter, if you do decide to mount fans on this bottom section as an intake, which you can do, again, you can put two 120s or two 140s in here, should you wish to. Just do bear in mind, obviously, there is only 3 slots for the graphics card. So if you've got a slim graphics card, such as the one we've got in the PC behind us, the MSI Slim, things like that, you should be fine. And of course there are slimline fans on the market. Just make sure you do your due diligence and also your research before you go ahead and make some major purchases. Next, let's take a look at the back section. So this isn't removable, obviously, because it is structural. So you've got your I/O section there. You've also got 2 holes in there. So if you wanted to go with some external custom water cooling, you can run some tubes or pipes out through there if you wanted to. There's also a pass through there as well, which can be used for the power supply cable. If you don't want it routed down to here, if you feel that is unnecessary in that position, then you can remove that and remove the cable and use your own dedicated cable and pass it through there should you want to. Like I said, on the back here, 80mm or 90/92mm fans go in there very nicely. There are normally some rubber grommets now. I've actually removed them because they were kind of in the way. They are designed for the 80mm. If you're going with the 92s or 90s, you don't need the grommets. Moving down to the very bottom, so we've got 3 removable PCI Express covers, and also, as you'd expect, they are heavily ventilated as well, which is always nice to see. And something which you'll notice, which you may appreciate and you may not, the power button is actually a little bit in the Apple Mac type style, it's hidden here. So there is your PC power on off button. Now the power supply stays turned on because that's enclosed, but this is the button to turn on or turn off your PC. You can, if you want to, reroute this cable. So if you want your cables to be all down towards the bottom, you can actually undo those 2 screws, remove this switch, and install it into this bottom section. So that might be easier for some people, depending on where you are. If you go for the add-on micro ATX unit, that does actually shift all of that to the front. So you get all of your front I/O on the front. You also get a reset switch, and also you get some additional 3.5mm headphone and microphone jacks, should you want to use them. Next, we'll take a look at the back section. So again, there is a little bit of indent there, which I've just about got what is left of my nails underneath there to pull that out. And that comes out again, same porosity all the way around, so nice even finish. And from here we can see this is the mounting section for our ITX motherboards. So your motherboard is going to cut off about here. You also got pass-throughs underneath as well, if you want to pass through some connections, although realistically it's unlikely you're going to. Although there is a little bit of a gap because this does stick out a couple of millimeters. So if you've got some nice flat cabling, potentially you could do some cable management there to tidy it up. You're never going to see it, but it's possible that is an option. Also, you've got this section here. Now, because of the modular nature of this, there is actually included in the accessories pack some additional brackets, which I've currently got mounted on the front, so I'll show you those closer in a minute. But because you've got little bits here, and also there's sections all around here with holes and bolt holes and what have you, screw threads, so you can actually have a little bit of fun with this. So depending on where you mount your power supply, if you've got it on this side, then you're going to struggle there, but you could potentially move your power supply, twist that around 180 degrees or 90 degrees, and you could possibly get another fan in there, or combinations of. So depending on what you want to do, it's really flexible in that regard. Other than that, you've got a few tie down points as well, so for cable ties to go through, of which included in the box, you do get a bunch of screws and also cable ties to help you with assembly. So last but not least, let's take a look at the front section. So again, that just pops out, as does the rest, same porosity. You're probably getting bored of that by now, I certainly am. So now we can take a look at what is going on here. So your power supply is going to be either coming down on this side, so covering up this section, or you can twist it around 90 degrees and have it coming down this section. It's entirely up to you. Now, if you're going for air cooling, you can also install these brackets. As you can see, there's 2 screws, top and bottom, either side. So in here you can put a 120 or 140mm fan. So if you want to have the front section with your I/O as an intake, you certainly can do. Like I said, you can undo those screws. Then if you want to, you could put that bracket or both of the brackets somewhere here or on the side. Again, very flexible in that regard. And going back to our front I/O, so two USB 3.2 ports, Type A, and also USB 3.2 Type C as well. And also included, there is a pass-through connector. Now they say this is included, this kind of comes with it pre-installed anyway. So this is a very slimline right-angled PSU connector. So this will route around the case however you want to, and then goes into the top into your power supply. You turn your power supply on, that's done and dusted. You then plug in your kettle lead or IEC cable at the back here in here. So effectively it's a pass-through. Apparently in some regions that isn't pre-installed. Whether or not that's a prerequisite for UK and Europe, I honestly don't know, but potentially that is the deal there. Again, if you don't want to use that cable, you can remove that and route the cable out however you want to. That is, again, entirely up to you. Now we can take another look at the power supply mounting section. So again, power supply is going to go in here. This twists around. There's loads of mounting screw holes on the side, so you can twist it around, move it. You can have it front mounted as well. So loads of options for your power supply. Again, power supplies up to 150mm in depth. So the smaller ATX ones should be absolutely fine, and pretty much any SFX or SFXL, again, won't be any problems whatsoever. And just like that, due to the magic of video editing, it's all back in one piece, and we've got our matching keyboard, or slightly matching keyboard out at the ready. So I think that is going to be enough for the overview of this case. Now I'm actually going to break this video down, so it's going to be two sections because we've gone on for quite a bit already. So if you want to see a build in this, there will be links in the video description. We're going to do a build in this. Also, for those of you that watch our live streams on a Saturday evening, I am going to be doing a build in this in our live stream. So if you've got any comments or questions, please do join us for that. Or alternatively, if it's sometime in the future, you can check out the live stream. We'll try and link that as well, and we'll go through. We'll be taking questions and trying out various different theories and design orientations on this, so we can really go into some depth on it. So if you've got any comments or questions regarding this case, or what can fit, what is able to go in here, then please do check that out or join us for it in the live stream. Overall, I think this is a nice little case. When it comes down to the price, £80, I think it is a little bit on the higher side, but due to the quality and construction and also flexibility of this, I don't think it's totally unreasonable, although as always I would love for it to be a little bit cheaper. Potentially as time goes on it will be. Again, there'll be links in the video description so you can check out the very latest pricing in your local areas. But as far as mini-itx builds go, I think this is a cracker, and also it's really nice to see it in actually a slightly different colour. Having the option for this fossil grey is very cool indeed, and it's a little bit different than the usual black or white or some of the other crazy colours we're seeing recently. So yeah, I really do like the grey look on this. Very understated, and hopefully it's going to be very good for airflow. But again, we'll find all that in the very next video. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and also the chime notification. That way you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.